Hello, EduMagicians. Welcome to the EduMagic podcast with your host, Dr. Sam Fessich. Dr. Sam is a professor of education, author of EduMagic, and a pumpkin spice latte fan. This podcast is designed for pre-service teachers. Remember, friends, teaching doesn't begin at graduation, but during that first class at 8 a.m. Let's get this party started.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. Explore more podcasts at www.teachbetterpodcastnetwork.com. Now let's get on to the episode.
Hello, EduMagicians, and welcome back to another episode of the EduMagic podcast. My name is Dr. Sam Fessich, and today we are exploring Maslow's Before Bloom. And I'm sure you've heard this phrase before, but it truly is so important as you get into the classroom as a field student and as a student teacher. You're going to start to learn and notice we need to incorporate Maslow's hierarchy of needs before Bloom's taxonomies. So today's episode, I'm going to review 4 resources that are going to help support you in identifying some ways to incorporate Maslow's Before Bloom's throughout your teaching. So let's go ahead and jump in. Before we dive into Bloom's taxonomy and all the intricacies for curriculum design, let's take a step back and look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is a psychological theory developed by Maslow that outlines the fundamental needs of every human in order to thrive. These needs range from basic psychological requirements like food, shelter, to higher level needs such as self-esteem and self-actualization. To move through Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you need to meet the basic needs first in order to move up different levels. And in order for them to learn from our strategies, our techniques, and learn the content, they have to have those basic needs first. So I'm sure you've heard the phrase Maslow Before Bloom. It actually is a mindset to remind us as teachers that we need to support and see our students as humans first, as unique individuals that enter our classrooms that are valued and appreciated for what they bring to our classroom space. Before expecting them to perform academically, students need to be able to be and feel safe, seen, supported, valued, and appreciated. This means we need to address their physical, emotional, and social needs in our classroom. We never know what's coming in with them in that invisible backpack. This might look like having a drawer of snacks. This might look like having a little pouch of hygiene products, whatever it might be, to help support our students. When students feel that secureness, that this is a safe environment where I am valued and respected, they're more likely to engage academically, and they're ready to engage academically. So let's talk about what this looks like in the actual classroom space. How do we prioritize Maslow in our classroom spaces? First, by creating that safe environment where students feel physically and emotionally secure, this caring space in the classroom. We need to create that space. Building relationships, getting to know our students, showing a genuine interest in their lives, supporting their emotional well-being, incorporating activities that promote mental health, doing check-ins with students to see how they're doing, those types of things. Opening discussions, social emotional learning, all those types of things help foster a sense of compassion, of respect, and rapport in our spaces. Fostering a sense of belonging, so collaboration, inclusivity, all those wonderful things we want to have in our classroom spaces. This can be set up through classroom norms, classroom contracts, discussions about what it means to discuss with a neighbor, to agree and to disagree with respect. So those types of things are things we can do in our classroom space to support our students, creating that environment that is safe and respectful of all in that space, building relationships with our students, supporting their social and emotional well-being, and having that sense of belonging. So once we have that space set up for our students, once those needs are met, we can then focus on our Bloom's taxonomy. And just a refresher, Bloom's taxonomy is a framework that helps us as teachers to structure our content in a way that promotes higher order thinking. So it starts with remembering and understanding and moves into analyzing and creating. And it really is a roadmap to help us think through question techniques, discussion prompts, ways students can apply what they know in different ways. But again, their Maslow needs to be met first. Then we can move into our Bloom's taxonomy. So I have about 4 different blog posts about this actually. And I was like, oh, I should do a podcast episode about it, highlight these resources. So I went over to my blog, and if you haven't been there yet, it's sfessich.com. That's S as in Sam, F as in Frank, E as in Edward, C as in cat, I as in igloo, C as in cat, H as in hotel.com, sfessich.com. And I typed in Maslow, and I found 4 wonderful resources, and I'm going to share them with you now. They're also linked in the show notes, so you can go ahead and check them out even further. The first is the New Teacher's Guide to Overcoming Challenges. And this was an episode that was done with the guest authors of the book, The New Teacher's Guide to Overcoming Challenges, Beth, Anna, and Leanna. And in this episode, they share several techniques to help support new teachers. So if you're looking for a new book for new teachers, definitely check that out. But a few that I wanted to pull up related to Bloom's taxonomy. So one would be regular feedback. Providing regular, constructive, timely feedback to students in order to foster growth for both the student and for you as the teacher. Providing feedback helps to support that Bloom's taxonomy so students can apply their knowledge. They're getting feedback from you as the educator, and you're able to give that feedback in lots of different ways. You can give it written, you can give it audio, you can give it video feedback, so many different ways to do that, and helping to build that relationships with students. You can also check in with students on feedback. Is this your best work? How has this work helped you in learning new content? Whatever it might be. So helping to build that relationship. And also in that post, the authors share relationships first. So prioritizing building strong relationships with students and creating a supportive, engaging learning environment. I absolutely love this one because it goes right back to Maslow's. We have a little bit of Maslow and a little bit of Bloom's in this resource. So providing feedback and prioritizing strong relationships with students in order to have that creative, engaging, supportive learning environment. The next resource is called Becoming a Maslow in Your Student's Life. And this was a guest post written by Hannah Wilson, who is a former student. And in this guest post, she shares a wonderful little graphic called Do This First: Belonging and Love, Esteem, Needs, Self-Actualization. And she shares, as an educator, it's important to look for signs that the student might not be giving us without realizing it. So looking and observing your students to see if they are missing any of those Maslow's needs. Some of the things she shares about in that post is creating a safe environment, ensuring students are physically and emotionally secure in the classroom, building connections, showing a genuine interest in students' lives and experience to foster their belonging, and supporting emotional well-being, incorporating activities to promote mental health, mindfulness exercises, open discussions about feelings. The next resource is called Let Your Light Shine and Build Relationships with Students. This was a podcast episode featuring Lavonna Roth, one of my favorite people. And in this episode, I remember this one phrase that she talked about. It was called noticing. You want to notice things about your students and just comment on to help build that relationship. Identify strengths with your students. Celebrate and recognize the student's strengths to help boost motivation and confidence. Tracking touch points, keeping track of interactions with students to ensure consistent and meaningful engagement. And then sometimes you might need to watch your body language and your facial expressions. So being mindful of your nonverbal cues that you're giving off, because sometimes that can impact a relationship as well. So I love those pieces from Let Your Light Shine and Build Relationships with Lavonna Roth. And then the last one was a crossover episode with my friend Charles Williams. And this was called What Did We Learn from 2020? And this was an episode that was done right after COVID and schools had opened up after the pandemic. And in this episode, we talked about Maslow over Bloom's, providing and prioritizing students' basic needs before focusing on academic achievements. Such an important piece as we continue to navigate that landscape. Providing those basic needs. Remember, going back to the physical needs, that shelter and food, providing some of those spaces for our students who might need that support. And then also in that episode, we talked about access and equity, ensuring that all students have access to those resources and support, especially if they're doing any type of remote learning days. Keep on doing those check-ins, those types of things. So the 4 resources I mentioned here would be the New Teacher's Guide to Overcoming Challenges. This was a guest episode with the authors of the book, and I pulled out a few of those tips related to Maslow's Before Blooms, which was about feedback and relationships first. Another was a guest post by Hannah Wilson, Becoming a Maslow in Your Student's Life, Creating a Safe Environment, Building Connections, Supporting Emotional Well-Being, and then Letting Your Light Shine and Build Relationships with Students, featuring Lavonna Roth, where we talked about body language, nonverbal cues, tracking touch points with students, and identifying strengths. And then the last resource, What Did We Learn from 2020? A crossover episode with Charles Williams. In this podcast episode, we discussed Maslow's Over Bloom's, prioritizing students' basics needs, and then equity and access, making sure students have access to necessary resources and support. So as we wrap up today's episode, you can find all those resources here in our show notes. Remember that education is not just about giving the knowledge, right? It's about nurturing the entire child and seeing them as a human first in your classroom space. By prioritizing Maslow's hierarchy of needs before Bloom's, we can create that environment where students are safe, supported, and ready to learn, ready to tackle that Bloom's taxonomy. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. You can also follow me over on social media at sfessich, SFECICH, for more insights and updates. Please stay tuned for our next episode. We're going to check out some strategies for the job search, so please stay tuned for that. Just a reminder, this episode was brought to you by my brand new freebie, What's Your Student Teacher Superpower? Head on over to sfessich.com and you can take the quiz there, find out your student teaching superpower. Let me know what it is, what your student teaching superpower is. All right, friends, until next time, you have the EduMagic within you. Bye for now.
And there you have it, EduMagicians. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with your friends. For more EduMagic, check out sfessich.com and follow Dr. Sam on Twitter and Instagram at sfessich. Until next time, you have the EduMagic within you.